Hey, how many know that it's not so much your skill or your talent, what you're able to do, but it's your availability to be able to do it. And I'm gonna talk about this in just a second with you. These cards that we have up here, we have a ton of them. You might have some in your worship guide there today. And you might have a prayer card. We've been praying over these cards today and all the last several weeks about who God might would send in your path, in your direction. And we've been in a series titled Called, because we're all called to this as believers. This is something we're called to do. And I've titled today, Fish Whisperer. Fish Whisperer. Huh? I seen some eyebrows raised when I said that, but we'll get there in just a second. My other question for you today is, man, in your conversations over the last week, have you been seasoned? Have you been with salt, in other words? Are you just, man, real to the point to where, man, you're a little obnoxious about your faith maybe? Or you need a little hard, a little brittle? Remember, we've been talking about that a little bit. You can't just approach people just to shove it down their throat. How many know that we have to have some seasoning? Are we doing it with love? Are we doing it in the right sort of capacity of what Jesus called us to do? And so we've been talking about those kinds of things. I just want to remind you real quickly, we are stuffing those eggs, but next Sunday, so I'm going to move, we're still going to be in the series called, but I'm going to move from us actually being fishers. I'm going to move a little bit to us actually allowing us to experience and walk back down the road Jesus did. Next week is Palm Sunday. We're going to do communion together. We always like to do that the week prior to Easter because we want to remember the whole week going up to it and what we do in that. So I'm just reminding you, next week's going to be a little different as we're being practical over these last couple of weeks with what Jesus called us to do. And I'm going to just jump right into that scripture today in Matthew chapter 4, starting in verse 18. Matthew chapter 4, verse 18. We've read this scripture at the beginning of each one of our messages in this series. And this is Jesus. And he's going to actually fish for some men, but he's wise in how he does it because he's doing it in a way that... So he's approaching fishermen and he's talking about how to fish. Now look, I want you to know something. He's applying what they already know to a spiritual context, in other words. And when he does this, you need to understand too, I guess, when they fished in that day, how many know they didn't use a rod and reel? Huh? No. They cast, not lines, but they cast nets. So they had nets they put out. And I'm familiar a little bit with how they cast nets because my great-grandfather, he was a fisherman growing up, and I watched him, even though he's dead and gone today, but the memory of him, I watched him as a young boy go out into the waters and get about waist deep and start driving these posts into the ground that had nets to them. And he was plotting, knowing where the currents were and where the dips in the water and all the different stuff to where he could plot these things down, and he'd wait a little bit. He'd watch. And he'd go back out there and turn that net inside out and dump all the fish on the shore and go back out again. I watched him sort of fish with these nets, man, and it was a crazy experience. I haven't done it since because I learned how to do it with a what? With a pole. Forget all that net casting stuff, right? But he knew how to do all that. And here's Jesus. He's going to talk to them in these guys' lingo right where they are. It says, and Jesus, in verse 18, Matthew chapter 4, verse 18, and Jesus, walking by the Sea of Galilee, saw two brothers, Simon called Peter and Andrew his brother. They were what? They were casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. So he's going to try to get them to become disciples, but he's going to get them not just to come and follow him, but he wants to change who they are from the inside out, their mission, right? So verse 19 tells us, then he said to them, follow me, and I will make you what? Fishers of men. Now, last couple of weeks I left that blank, but by now we all should know sort of where we are on that. We all should know he's called them to be fishers of men. We said that, man, Jesus calls us, maybe we could fill in that blank in a lot of different ways. He could call it, hey, Jesus called me Follow me and I will make you what? I mean, you think of all kinds of stuff that Jesus can make you. Man, he's going to make you a better person maybe, or he'll make you holy, or he'll make you read the Bible more and all that. But notice Jesus didn't say any of that. Jesus focused when he met them for the first time. Out of all the stuff he could have said, he came and told them, I'm going to make you what? Fishers of men. You know what I've come to understand through this series? And even through the experiences of life, when I know somebody's truly a follower of Christ, I know that followers are fishers. Followers are fishers. Followers of Jesus. If you're a follower of Jesus, then you care about what Jesus cares about. I mean, you really care. Because look, it doesn't work like this. I'm a follower of Jesus, but I just don't want to go where he goes. How many know that don't work? Right? I'm a follower of Jesus, but, I'm going to stay here, and you can go on over there. I mean, Jesus, I want to accept you in my heart and everything. That's all good. I got what I need. I got fire insurance, or, I'm not going to hell. I'm good. I just want to go to heaven, Jesus, so I'm going to put you right here, but I'm not really going to follow you. I'm still going to do me, Jesus. You do you, and let me do me. How many know it don't work like that? No. A true follower, you got to let go of you so that you can become more of him. And so many people, when they start out, they get pulled. And some of us, sometimes as followers become fishers of men. Some of us, we become real stale, real stagnant, real stuck sometimes, because we want to stay in our place and not follow Jesus where he's going. So we become stuck. We become stagnant. We stay in a certain area when he's called us to come out of comfort to follow him. No, but I like Jesus, I just want to hold on to this part of me. No. He said, if you'll let go of all of you, I'm going to give you all of me. If you'll just let go of some of the things. But Jesus, man, I really like, this stuff right here. This is good stuff, Jesus. This stuff I'm addicted to right here. Man, I really want to keep that part, right? We got a lot of stuff that we like to compartmentalize. And Jesus is like, hold on, wait a minute. If you're going to follow me, dump it all. Leave the fishing business to the disciples, right? Leave it all. Drop everything that you've known from this point forward and come and follow me. And if you do, I'm going to make you a fisher of men. So I asked this question the last couple of weeks. I'm going to flip it and ask it, the one I asked first this week, all right? So how many of you don't like to fish? Let me ask that. Don't like to fish. There's some of them. So how many of you like to fish? Who does? Few does. All right, so we grew a few more in second service this week than we did last week, all right? We had a lot more in first service that liked to, that some of them didn't, but y'all were the opposite. But we grew a little bit this week of those who like to fish. So my great-granddad, who used to do that kind of stuff, I used to sort of consider him like the fish whisperer. You know what I mean? He knew what he was doing out there, and he could just grab, anytime he went on the water, he always came back with fish. Well, I didn't see him a lot. I got into my college years, and that's when he passed away, 93 years old. So I remember going out with my dad as a young boy. We'd go out when it was hot, summertime, water's warm. It's warm outside. Shorts out, casting the line, just throwing it over. And when we fished with him, it was like spot, croaker. Y'all know what a croaker is, right? Y'all been around enough. Makes a little noise like it's croaking, right? So those are the type of fish that we used to catch. Man, I used to enjoy that. My dad, he'd drive us to where it was, had the right bait on it, all this good stuff, and get us set on it. And all we had to do was drop it down and wait for the fish. Usually two hooks on the end of the line, and just drop it down. And when you feel the fish start pulling, then you just start reeling, right? Nothing to it, right? Hey, you just drop it down, and you just start fishing. So I just thought my dad was the fish whisperer, right? He was just always putting us on fish, and we'd go out catch fish, and we even caught flounder a few times. And so, man, I just grew up thinking all that great stuff, and he is a great fisherman. And so one day, When I got into my college age, just high school, college, the guy that lived, my dad moved into another area, another neighborhood, and the guy that lived down the road from him, they hooked up together. They loved to fish, and he said, look, I'm going to show you how to fish for striper or rockfish. And so he took him out, and this guy's name was Cottrell. And then I came to realize that Cottrell was a fish whisperer himself, because Cottrell took us out to the mouth of the bay. First island, second island, third island, fourth island. You're out there, water's flowing. I mean, it's 60 feet deep in some spots, sometimes 80 feet deep. You're in the bay. If you start going out toward the ocean, you're getting 100 feet deep. You're getting down further. But right where we were, at the mouth, 40 to 50 feet deep water, sometimes 60. And so he would tell us, look, we first went out there. I'm a young guy, teenager. We first go out there. He's like, look, so the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, the islands, the bridge that's on each one of them, the tunnels that go between island to island, all that stuff. So we're at like the third island where it's coming into that tunnel part. So the bridges are over. It's the two sets coming and going right on across the water there, Eastern Shore, all that. So he would tell us, look, there's a tube dropped right here on this side. So there was an old tunnel that when they built the new tunnel, they dropped it down and left it in the water. And so on one side of that tube is where the current flows. A lot of the fish would go on the other side of the tube and let the current go over, because where the water wasn't flowing on the other side of that, there was a lot of stuff to eat. So they'd go up and feed on the side of the tube that the water wasn't flowing on. So if you got your line out there and started fishing and waited for it to get across the old tube, bam, that's usually right when it hit the light. Oh, that's usually when the fish would strike. So he taught us about all that kind of stuff to get it right. He showed us what a shad was. Y'all remember this from the last week or two? He showed us this is what we fished with. We started out on that stuff. Hey, there's certain caution lights that where they fish around. That's a better spot. And he was showing us all the ins and outs of fishing. So one day he took my first time. He took my dad first. So I finally get to go with him. And we're out there. And I throw my line over. And I'm trying to do what they do. And they're looking at me. He's laughing. Cottrell's laughing at me. I'm getting frustrated because he's done pulled a fish in. His buddy done pulled a fish in. Now my dad's pulling fish in. And everybody in the boat's pulling fish in except who? I'm like, man, I don't like this fishing stuff anymore. I keep throwing out, and he's watching me. He's like, look, man, you're letting your line get too loose. You got to keep it. I ain't never done that before. You just got to keep the line just tight, so when the fish hits it, you'll feel it bump real quick. It's just a light bump. He tried to show me what it feels. You got to learn that, and you got to learn the difference between what a fish bump is and when you're hitting the bottom and getting snagged or little bumps on it. You got to do it long enough to where you learn the different feel of the thing as you're going across the water. What was he trying to do? He's trying to teach me something, but I got to do it a little bit. I ain't really feeling it yet, so I'm going across, and man, I'm getting frustrated, and fish is coming in the boat from everybody else, and all of a sudden, finally, one time, boom, I feel it. And when I did, I jerked it real hard, and that thing pulled back, and I started reeling. And boy, I reeled that thing in, and don't you know, once that thing got up and they netted that fish, and they got it up, my first rockfish ever, a striper fish, do you know when they got that thing, there was something else hooked besides a fish? That was me. Because now, I have finally felt and learned the feeling of the differences of what it was. You see, I understood something, that when you're not good at something, you don't like to do it. Man, I ain't doing that no more. But when you're good at something, man, you really enjoy doing something you're good at, right? And so some of you today might be going, Tommy, man, I ain't really good at doing that fisher of men stuff, like trying to really share my faith with somebody or tell somebody about. I'm not really good at that. I'm not comfortable with that. Look, I'm going to leave that to Jeff and Key. They're the connections folk. I'm going to just let them do. I'm going to let Pastor Hal or Pastor Tommy, you can do that. I'll come listen, and you just do all the faith stuff. And but I found out if you're good at something, then you might enjoy doing it. I also found out that whether you feel like it's your personality or not, that we're all called to this. We're all chosen for this. And so let me show you that real quickly in 1 Peter, that we're all called to be a fish whisperer. What? Really, me? No, I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to let y'all do that. No, check it out. 1 Peter chapter 2, starting in verse 9, tells us this. And I love the way the Message version sort of put these verses together and how it said it. It just sort of jumped down and spoke to me a little more that way. So I gave you the Message version in this one, even though I don't use that one a lot. Here it is. 1 Peter 2, verse 9 and 10 says, "But you are the ones chosen by who?" Number one, you're chosen, and you're not just chosen by anybody. You're chosen by who? You're chosen by God. You. Everybody say me. You, me, all of us, right? We're chosen by God. Here's what we're chosen for. Chosen for the high calling of priestly work. Chosen to be a holy people. God's instruments to do His work and speak out for Him. Wow. When God chose you, when He finally got you, when He made you a fisher of men, when you gave your life to Christ, man, He chose you for a reason. Number one, He wanted to allow you to have a relationship with Him. But number two, He had a purpose and a plan, and you thought that was for somebody else, but that's for all of us. That's just for the pastor. No, that's for all of us. All of those that are chosen by God. And here's what He said. Not just to work and to speak out for Him, but to tell others of the night and day difference He made for you. For nothing, I went from nothing to something, right? From rejected to what? Accepted. Isn't that something, man? That's some powerful words, the way they use that. In other words, you need to be able to tell your story, that you're chosen by God, and that God made a difference in you, right? That's important. In other words, that God made a night and day difference in your life. So what if I'm living for Christ? How many know that? Let's go this way first. If I gave my life to Christ, how many know there should be a difference in who you were to who you are today? For those that really got it, for those that really gave their heart to Christ, for those that really wanted to go and have less of me and more of Him, that really fell in love with a relationship with Jesus, when they've done that, you should be able to have a difference from who I was to who I am today. In other words, people should be able to see a change in you, in your life. And for those of us that might not have that change yet, there might be an experience or relationship that you need to reconnect with. His name is Jesus, so that you can have the true change from, hey, this is who I was, and this is who Jesus has made me. You got to have a change in your life, and it's important to do that. He said, look, matter of fact, there's such a change that when you tell somebody about me, there's going to be a night and day difference. I mean, it's totally different. This is who I was, and this is who I am today. It should be different. And it should be, look, if you give your life to Christ and He has done so much that you have a relationship with Him and you're passionate about it, how many know it should be natural to tell somebody about somebody that you're in a love relationship with? It should be just natural for us to do that. So are you in love, and is it a natural relationship? Here's what I found out. I told you a few weeks ago that found people find people. I told you last week that hurt people hurt people. I want to tell you today, change people change people. If God's made a change in you, then it will be automatic that you'll want to have a change in somebody else's life because of the effect that it's had on your life, how much He has made a difference in you. That's important for us to understand that. So I just believe that God has been growing us over the last few weeks, growing us in this area of being able to share our faith. As a matter of fact, I want to tell you a story. And there's a story about a man that's in John chapter 9, and I don't have time to read that whole chapter today. So look, I'll just put this to you. At some point during the week, this coming up week, just read John chapter 9, okay? It's the story of a man. The Bible says he was born blind. He was born that way. He tells us right from the get-go. He was born that way. It didn't affect him, and he turned that way. All he's ever known was what? Blindness. He don't know life no different. He don't know how to go through life as somebody who has seen and then all of a sudden lost it, so he can correlate or recognize or be able to have some type of understanding of what life is like on the other side of not seeing. He has no comprehension of that. Even though people can talk about it, he don't really understand it because he's never really had it. You understanding that, right? So it's a story about a blind man. And people in the community that knew him as the man who really couldn't help himself. He had the stick maybe that went around and people had to help him get from one spot to the other. He was a beggar because people in that day that were blind, they couldn't work and do the different things. Society didn't provide for them. So they would beg at the city gate. They would beg at the temple or the synagogue. They would beg at the pools of Bethesda or Siloam or the different pools that were there. They would beg and sit there and people would just give them. They would say alms and people would try to they just live off of that type of lifestyle. And so people knew him as somebody that they sort of had to help along the way. But all of a sudden, he meets a man named Jesus, and Jesus heals him of his blindness. Jesus touches him right where he is. And when the man went back, the people began to respond to him. They began to see this man that was blind, but he can see now. He's going around, he's moving. Nobody's helping him. He's not begging for anything. He's just and they're starting to have some questions about who this guy is. Look, that's so-and-so. Ain't that the blind man? And somebody else is like, no, that ain't him, because it might look like him. That's somebody that looks like him, but we know that guy, he's blind. He can't see. So that can't be him. Mm-hmm. You catching the change? So, he can see now. And he begins to tell them, no, it is me. And I met somebody, and they changed my life from the inside out. They changed who I was. And when he told them that, they began to question him. Not just easy little questions, not happy I'm celebrating, but they began to dig at him a little bit. And I want you to hear these questions. Can I read just a few of the questions they had along the way? Check it out. In John chapter 9, I'm going to read in verse 10 is the first question they had. He came back and had all this experience, and here's what they asked him. Look, check it out. How then were your eyes opened, they asked. They had some questions along the way. How was your eyes opened? Let me read another question for me. In verse 12, it tells us this, right? Verse 12. Well, where is this man? Because he told him, look, I met this man named Jesus. And he touched my eyes. And he opened them up. Matter of fact, here's what Jesus did. If you know this story, if you don't, let me give you the quick version so you don't have to read all the text right there. But Jesus, when he met the man, he spit into the dirt. Now, number one, most of us would think that was disgusting, right? Now, why y'all spitting, man? Man, this guy's spitting on the ground and all this, that wouldn't be like the way we would think it should be done. How many know Jesus will go outside the box on us in a second? He don't care about your religion or how you think. So he spit into the ground and he began to make mud pies. Started balling it up, making some mud out of the dirt he spit in, and he rubbed it in the man's eyes. Now, if that's you and me, or I'm watching that take place, I'm going, man, I guess he can't mess his eyes up no more, but that's got to be uncomfortable, right? Now he's feeling like grit in his eyes and all the stuff's going on. Like, that's got to feel uncomfortable. Jesus, why are you trying to make this? He's already miserable. He can't see, and now you're making it worse. If I'm just being honest, okay? If I'm thinking, I'm watching this. Some of y'all might not be that honest, but I'm just telling you how I see things pretty plainly. So if that was me sitting there, I'm like, man, I don't know about this guy Jesus. I'm backing up. I'm going, hey, what's happening here? Then Jesus tells him something. After he rubbed the mud in his eyes, he tells him, look, now all I want you to do is go rinse in the pool. Just rinse it. Just follow my direction. Just rinse in the pool. Jesus, I guess I got to rinse. You done put all this mud in my eye. And what's that going to do for me? Just rinse in the pool. And he went over and he washed the mud out of his eyes. And as soon as he did, he could see. He could see. Can you imagine? You've never been able to see, and you're a grown person. And now you can see. And he went and just started going, because now he could go on his own. Nobody had to help him for the first time. Nobody had to help him. He's going through. He's excited. He's telling people, because when God changes your life, how many know you'll be telling somebody? And so he's telling people, and instead of these people celebrating with him, they got so much religion in them that they start to question. Let me get to another question with you today. So another verse. Which one we just do? Verse what? 12? Let's go to verse 16. Is that the one we still have? We got 16? All right. We got them all? Okay, great. How can a sinner perform such signs? They asked him, how can a sinner? So what you're not catching between verse 12 and verse 16 is that they told the blind man, when did he heal you? And it was on that day. He healed me today. And they said, well, today is the Sabbath day. He must be a sinner if he tried to do that on the Sabbath day. In other words, these people don't have much relationship with Jesus. They don't have much relationship with God. They got all the rules down. They're very religious. But that's the same people of why God sent his son to the world to reach those people, because they won't get it right. They're supposed to be God's representatives, but they ain't doing it right. They got all the knowledge. They know the Bible better than anybody, but they don't know how to have a relationship with God and reach people. I mean, they got the rules right, and there's a lot of people in church today that's got the rules right and got no relationship with Jesus. I mean, they know how to tell you how to do something. They know how to tell you when you're supposed to raise your hands and clap. And they know, hey, don't wear that or don't say that. They know how to tell you all the don'ts. But do they have a relationship with Jesus? Because if they did, they might be telling you a different way, seasoned with salt. They might be telling you in love. They might be telling you at the right time in the right place, not trying to make room for themselves, but wait for God to make room for your heart to be open. And Jesus is showing them this. So in other words, they're saying all this stuff and Jesus ain't nowhere to be found. And they got a lot of questions. What? How can a sinner perform? Now, number one, if you call Jesus a sinner, I'm going to be backing up from you right then, because I don't know what's about to happen. Huh? I mean, you got to be bold. In other words, you have no clue about a relationship with him. And they're asking these questions, man. Do you see how they're grilling him throughout? Let's go to verse 17. There's another question in there. Verse 17 says this. Then they turned again to the blind man. What have you to say about him? It was your eyes he opened. The man replied, he is a what? He's a prophet. And when he said that, they got even more upset. And they went and got his parents. And at this point, they done took him in front of the Pharisaical council, or the Sanhedrin, the group that is about that they bring people in front of that's done bad things. You know, they done it wrong. And so they done brought these people in front of them, and they brought his parents in, put the guy away. The blind man's away now. He can see now, but they took him out the room and brought his parents in, and they said, look, what do you got to say about what your boy's saying? Is he your son? And do you know if he knows what he's talking about? And basically, I'm giving you my version real quick because we ain't got time to read the whole thing. So here we go. So they say, look, he is my son. But I wasn't there when what took place. I know he's my son and he can see right now. But as far as all the other stuff, he's of age to speak for himself. So I'm going to step out of the way and let him do all the... And really what they were doing is they were trying to cover themselves. Because in that day and age, if you didn't say or go along with what they were saying, then they would put you out of the synagogue forever. They could ban you from it. So they won't try. And when you got banned from the synagogue, you were looked down on society for the rest of your life. So they didn't want to have that kind of look upon them. So they sort of just put the son up and said, look, he's of age, let him speak for himself. And they backed out of the way to cover themselves. And then they brought the boy back in. And verse 25 tells us what he says back in front of them. Here it is. I'm going to end with this one right here. Verse 25 tells them this. They asked him again, all right, what's the deal with it? Did this happen? They're grilling him. They're going through the questions. And he replied this, verse 25. He replied, whether he is a sinner or not, I don't know. One thing I do know, I was blind, but now I see. I can't tell you all the other stuff. And you got all these other questions. And none of them questions mean nothing to me. All I know is I came in contact with somebody that took me as I was and made me who I am today. So all the questions you got, you might just want to deal with him. But for me, he's a prophet to me. He's somebody that changed my life. He's somebody that has took me as I was, blind as I was. How many know we are all blind when we're born into this? See, Jesus did something to him that went beyond just a physical healing. When that man washed his eyes, and that mud and dirt and all came, how many know that's a representative of our heart? Because we all have messed up. We've all fallen short. We all need a Savior to wash us with his blood and save us, to wash away our darkness and to make us white again, cleansed, new on the inside. Somebody that we couldn't be in ourselves. Somebody that couldn't see the way we were seeing it. And so when that water went over his eyes and came clean, not only did his physical eyes open up, but guess what else opened up? His spiritual eyes. All of a sudden that spiritual man came alive. And he began to see life differently, not just physically, but now spiritually. He already knew who Jesus was. He didn't learn that along the way. He'd never met this man before, but all of a sudden, in one encounter with him, his whole life was changed. His perspective on life, who God was to him, had changed. Everything had changed in him, not just physically, but now, man, I have come alive on the inside because of my relationship with Jesus. So a lot of times I've found out that when we start telling our story, or when God has touched our life, that the enemy will have a lot of questions for us. You ever felt like God touched your life, and then during that week afterwards that all these questions start coming in your mind? Or maybe God has told you to do something, or you prayed, and man, you felt like God was impressing you on something, and you were debating on that thing, and these questions of insecurity start coming into our minds sometimes. And that's just the enemy's way to try to distract us from doing what's really on the inside of us that God's calling us to do and be a part of. Those little nudges, those feelings on the inside when we're by ourselves and no one else is around, and you're just laying your head down at night and you're just thinking, or you're in the shower and I'm just telling you when it happens to me, when I'm mowing the grass and everything's good, and I'm just, man, all of a sudden things just start just happening in my mind. And usually he's speaking to me in that time. And then when I go throughout, the enemy will try to put things in our head to question what it is that God's trying to do in our life. And so when you begin to reach out and become a fisher of men and you begin to tell your story, what God's done in your life, don't be surprised by people that's going to have questions. They might start having all kinds of questions. They might be having all kinds of thoughts run through their head. And how many know you'll meet all kinds of people? So let me give you, for example, well, this is what Jesus did for me. This is who he is. Well, how did all them animals get in the boat then? I mean, come on, that's a good question to ask. You know what I mean? And you might have to say, well, I don't know how all the animals got in the boat. I don't have all those answers. Well, what about Jonah? How did Jonah spend all night, day, whatever it was, in the belly of a fish like that and still survive? How'd that happen? I don't know how that happened. Well, what about some people? Here's the religious folk. They know enough to be dangerous, but they really don't have much relationship. Well, how about the book of Revelation? You know, like when Jesus coming to get us, and they'll start asking about all the eschatology, when, before, after, all this stuff. Look, I don't know about all that. Guess what? That question, I don't know. When we get to heaven, we're going to ask. Okay? But here's what I do know. I might not have all the answers out here, but here's what I do know. I once was blind, but now I... That's what I know is real to me. You don't have to have all the answers. Some people get real scared about sharing their faith because, tell me I don't know enough of the Bible, or I just don't know what to say. Look, all you got to do is tell them your story. This is who I was, and this is what God's made me today. Night and day, out of that scripture. This is, look, I once was lost, but now I'm found. I was blind, but now I can see. That's amazing grace right there, right? And so, don't get caught up in all the questions that might come into our mind. Just do what God's called us to do. You see, here's what I want us to understand today. Don't allow what you don't understand about God to keep you from sharing about God. Because we'll never understand Him fully while we're here. I don't care who you are. You'll never understand it all. There's so much of Him, an infinite God. How could we fit Him in a finite brain like ours, into a spirit? We can't capture it all. So don't ever think you're going to fully have it all figured out. It says when we get there and meet Him, then we will understand like He understands. So we will never know until we get there. So I don't mind having some questions when I get there. All I know is He's done this in me and changed me. And now He's making me. Not only has He changed me from there, He don't want to leave me like that. I mean, no matter where you're at, He's still got a plan to grow you from where you are today. He's not finished with us yet. It's important for us to understand that. And so I'm going to give you two practical things today. Just two, and I'm gonna put them both together real quick because I've done took this time together, but I thought it was important to get real practical at the end of it. I want us to, two practical points, and I'm going to spend most of the time on the one and just pray over the last one with us, all right? So I'm just letting you know where we're going today, so don't think I'm going to run this a long time. I'm just giving us a little bit right here. But last week I talked about us building a bridge to someone's heart. And remember, here's real practical. I said the best spiritual thing that you could ever do to somebody at your workplace or at school or at home or whatever it is you show up with a box of donuts. Or you show up with their favorite Starbucks. Don't show up preaching at them. Show up with, or maybe you just show up when you see them in a time of need throughout the day. You feel like they're going through something. You see it and you just pray with them right then and there because you see the God opportunity time that they're ready. So in other words, we're meeting people at the point of their need. Maybe you're just buying gas for somebody who's going through a hard time that week, right? Maybe you're taking somebody to lunch that week. You're just meeting them at the point of their need. We're being very practical in that. But after you do that, after you give them the Starbucks, Tommy, what do I say after that? When you give the donuts, Tommy, what? I don't know. I mean, I'm good. I can bring the stuff in, Tommy, but what do I say? Here's where I want to help you with that real quick. Can I be practical with you today? Here's where I want to help you today because I found out if you're good at something, you'll enjoy doing it. So I want to help us be good at what Jesus has called us to do. First thing I want to tell you today is you want to tell them this. Come and see. Come and see. Look, I'm borrowing that phrase from several different verses in the Bible. I'm borrowing that phrase from that. That's why I've put it in there. Let me show you one of them today. Psalm chapter 66 and verse 5 puts it this way. Psalm 66 verse 5, it says what? Come and, you see the phrase right there? Come and see what God has done, His awesome deeds for mankind. Tell them what? After you've told them that, just tell them, hey, just come and see for yourself. Just come and see. How many of you think that Jesus was a good fisher of men? Well, can I show you His words or what He said when He was trying to fish? So we looked at it in Matthew, how Jesus met His first disciples and brought them in. And even the second week or so it was that we looked at Luke a little bit of how he did it. But let me show you John's version of when he met his disciples for the first time. They all, look, so y'all know the Gospels are all the same story from different people's viewpoints, right? Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, it's all the same time period. But God saw in His divine wisdom through the Holy Spirit that He wanted to give us a lot of different angles of what was taking place to teach us through all those different lenses. Does that make sense to us? So here's John's version that we haven't got to yet of the same encounter when he was meeting his disciples for the first time. Check out John. Let me see what I got. John chapter 1. And I'm going to start in verse 39. Verse 39, Jesus meets them, He comes up to them, and He says to them, come and you will see. Right? Come and see. There it is again. Come and you will see. So they came and saw where here's what they saw. They saw where he was staying, and they stayed with him that day, for it was about the 10th hour. And I'm going to just stop right there. But you know the rest of the story, because they ended up not just staying that day, they stayed for the next 3.5 years with him until he died, and they turned around becoming the apostles. So in other words, Jesus started out by telling them, I don't know how they felt when Jesus showed up to them on the water. They're in a boat. They're doing what they normally did. And he says, oh, wait, guys, hey, come and see. I'm going to make you fishers of men. And they're like, wait a minute, I already know how to fish. Why are you telling me how to? No, not fish for fish. Just come and see. That's how he started with them. If Jesus started that way, how many know we can? Right? Just come see what he's done. Come see what he's done, not only on the inside of me, but there's a lot of others that he's done something. And just come and see what's going on in there. You see, we love shared experiences. We as a society, it's growing more of how we like to share, especially with social media as it is today. We love shared experiences, don't we? I mean, come on, look, I thought about a few of these things. Like if you're sitting in a seating area with others that you don't really know, so like if you're at the movies or you're at a show or whatever you're at, and you're sitting beside other people, you don't really know them, and something happens at the show or on the screen or whatever you're watching, or somebody says something funny or they do something funny, and y'all like, ha, man, you see that? That's funny stuff. And they're going, yeah, that's good stuff, man. I'm watching the same thing, so, right? But you do that, you know you're watching the same thing together, but you do that, why? Because you want to share the experience with them, right? Another thing, if you're watching a ball game, like I did this last night, because UVA pulled it out at the very end, right? Some of y'all was watching UVA, all right? So me and my family, we was at my dad's house, and we were having, my daughter just had a birthday, so we had a little birthday party for my family before the game, and then when the game started, we all went in and started watching the game, right? And so when we're watching the game, it got down, and some of y'all know it was a nail biter at the end, right? And so the guy had to hit the shot right at the buzzer, and he went up to shoot. He got fouled. We know all the stuff that happened. But look, when the game was over, so when these buzzer beaters and the guy goes up to shoot the shot, if he hits the shot, what happens? Everybody just like, all right. No. We were invested, right? So when the game was over, we won. He hit the last shot, right? 0.6 on the clock. He hit the last shot. When he did that, whoa, we jumped up. And we were all excited about it. My daughter was sitting there beside me, and my dad was over in his spot, my brothers, everybody was around. I mean, everybody, little kid, nephews, we're all in there cheering, right? We're all having, because, man, the game and we won at the last, and we're going, hey, man, did you see that? Did you see that, man? We won the game. Of course they seen that. They've seen the same thing. They're right in there, right, with us. Of course they've seen it, but we do that kind of stuff. Why? Because we like to have shared experiences together. So I joke my wife all the time. I mean, I'm proud of her. She went on this thing a couple years ago, this keto kick, I call it, and she did great on it, lost a lot of weight, got real healthy, did all that kind of stuff. So a lot of people started following her. So she started taking pictures of food she was about to eat for her Instagram people, right? So I joke her all the time. What are you taking pictures of food for, right? #delicious. Right? What is all that? I mean, look, it's just, everybody's got to eat. You ain't got to give your pictures. So what else do? We take our clothes. I'm about to wear this. This is what I'm about to wear. Man, just wear the clothes. They'll see it when they get there. Right? But we like doing that kind of stuff because we're trying to have what? Shared experiences. We like to go through these things together and share these experiences with one another, whether it's food or what I'm about to wear. So in other words, this tells me that it's most natural that we should be sharing about Jesus. If we've experienced him and he's changed our life, why would we not want to have that shared experience with somebody else? Why would we not want to be around other believers that help us in that shared experience and share it with one another? Allow him to grow and move in us. I mean, the most unnatural to me would be, hey, I really found this guy. Man, he's changed my life. I mean, I really know what real life is, and to have real peace and to have eternal life. And man, it's peace beyond compare to anything he's really changed my life. But I ain't going to tell you where I found it. That's unnatural to me, right? Because if he's really changed you and you've had an experience with him, then you don't just show up to Sunday on the week you got to work on that Sunday to volunteer. No, I'm showing up because I'm ready for him to change my life, and I need a shared experience because I want to share it with others, but I also know iron sharpens iron, and it helps me to grow in him. I'm so in love with him that I want to be in his presence. And it's not just on Sunday, but on Monday when I'm driving into work. God, I can talk to you today. When I lay my head down at night, Father, I thank you for another blessed day today, for keeping me safe. Might not have liked everything that happened today, but I'm going to thank you that I got breath in me one more day. So, in other words, there's more to this life than just keeping to ourselves, right? Here's the last thing, and Chuck, you can come on and help me. I'm going to try to finish this up. So, in other words, if I want to share this, you might be telling somebody, look, come and see. That's exactly what we're going to do on Easter Sunday. That's exactly why we put these things in your hand today. Because we wanted you to have an opportunity. No, is it about people? All this is what? It's just a lure. It's just bait. We hope that through some of these things that we're going to promote, that it becomes a hook, that Jesus' love hooks them, even though we just show them the bait. So what's the bait? What are we doing for people that aren't coming because they need to have a relationship, but they need to have something that attracts them? Maybe they got kids. They need something that attracts them. So we got on each side of that card not only our service times on Easter Sunday, but we got on the backside what's happening in our children's area, our kids' area, things that are going on back there. And you can tell them, look, man, we're going to have superheroes in costume back there. They're going to have a message just for them. They're going to be playing games and prizes and all that good stuff. And there's going to be a photo booth back there. It's all on the car. They can take their picture with their superhero. They're going to come out of it. So it's actually going to be like a photo booth where it spits out the strip of prints. So they're going to come out and they're going to have their pictures taken with Batman and Superman and Spider-Man, whoever's all back there, Black Panther and a bunch of them she's got lined up, Captain Marvel, I think he's supposed to be back there. I mean, it's just... And all that is what? So you can tell them. You can tell them what? Come and see. It's going to happen on Easter Sunday. We're going to give people that have our first-time guests with us, they're going to take a free T-shirt home with them, and we want them to stop by the guest tent, that kind of stuff that's going to be set up out there. I'm going to be preaching a message that's going to be dealing with hope is rising. Because I still believe that there's a lot of people that don't have the hope that they need, that they can understand is still available to them. I mean, know that we still need to understand that there's hope for us. They think they're caught in the mindset that now I'm going to stay the way I am, or there's no way out of this, and there's no change for me. And I want to let them know that there is hope, and you don't have to stay where you are or be who you've always been, that we've all been lost. And we hope God is doing something that when He found us, that He's changing us to become more like Him, right? That's important for us. It's important for them. We're going to have some videos. And look, we're going to actually announce this. You're going to see in our Facebook and Instagram ads that are going to be coming out over the next week or 2 weeks. We're only 2 weeks from Easter, right? So you're going to see, we're going to be announcing, hey, we're going to have a 1-hour service with an egg hunt right after. Just what? 1 hour. Why? Tommy, you limiting God. No. Let me tell you something. People that don't know Jesus or aren't comfortable in church, they might be coming just on Easter Sunday. How many know they don't? If you tell them, hey, just come and sit an hour and you can leave. If you tell them that, what does that become to them? Easy, right? We're going to have an hour service. How many know they're going to pick up them eggs in like 2 seconds? It's going to take you like 5-10 minutes to spread them out. They're going to hit the horn and they're going to go after them in like a minute. It's going to be done, right? Then they're going to be able to slide, room for the others to come in. We're believing that God's going to move in that, and that all the bait that we're throwing out, that somebody gets hooked by God's love along the way. That's all it is. So I want you to understand that with me. Here's the last thing. So you're telling them to come and see. And look, we want you to do this. We want people that really have a heart for God and want to reach people. We want to give people that's coming in the best experience that they can have, right? It's about the experience. And so we want you to help us over the next 2 weeks, because we want to do like a dry run next week. We want to do a practice run before Easter. You know what I'm saying? So we need you. We got a volunteer sheet out there. If you still got the card, you can mark it and put it out there. We need you to volunteer. Hey, Tommy, I can help be a host in the lobby when a visitor comes out. I can help work in the parking lot, and man, I can put some Mickey Mouse hands on and wave, or I can put an animal head on and just act fun and have a good time out there as people are pulling in. Or we need you with helping with parking or security, and not security to protect, but security like when we're taking children across to the Easter egg field that's right next across the street from us, that we got people lined up so that everybody goes across safe. And so all those areas, we need extra hands, extra people, so that we can do what God's called us to do. If you can do that and your heart's on, Tommy, do I got to have or no? No, nothing. Just be available, right? Sign up in that lobby today if that's your heart. Here's the last thing. Not just come and see, but sit with me. Sit with me. I want you to take it a step further. I want you to go beyond. How many know people that are coming in, they're a little bit curious, right? And you got to understand something. It can be intimidating if they've come into a place they've never been before. They're sitting with a bunch of people they've never seen before. They've not experienced what we're doing before. That can be a little bit. And we know that. And that's all right. And that's why we're out to make the experience for them the best we can make it. So we want to give them a plan beyond just the initial invite. That's a good place to start, but go beyond that with them. Here's where you put the bait and try to set the hook. Here's how you really fish for men in a practical way in the day and age that we live in. That's the start. But I want you to move beyond, and you might say, hey, here's when we're meeting and here's where we're meeting. That's fine. That's a start, right? But you might go beyond that and go, hey, I'd be glad to meet you at the door when you get there. Let's show up about 20 minutes beforehand. And look, I'll walk back with you, show you where to check your kids in if you got them, help you go through that. I'll show you around the place, coffee, donuts, that kind of thing. And when we get in there, man, just come and sit with me. We'll have a shared experience together. Right? And let me go a step further with that. Let me go a step further. Now, this is for the hardcore right here. This ain't for everybody. But this is for the people that really love Jesus right here. This is for these people right here. All right? You might even go and say, hey, if you can't get there, I'll pick you up. Or you might say, look, if you come and see and you sit with me, man, I'll even take you to lunch afterwards. What, Tommy? Hold up. Wait a minute. Oh, you taking a little too far there, Pastor. I told you this for the hardcore. Like the ones that really, really love Jesus. Right? Tommy, are you suggesting that something as practical as taking somebody to lunch or showing them around or having them sit with me, are you suggesting that someone could go to heaven instead of hell for eternity simply because I said, come and see and sit with me? I sure do. I really believe that. That's why we're here, right? If we're not winning people for Christ, why are we here? We're chosen to do that. But Tommy, I don't know how they're going to respond. Well, let me tell you, they can only respond one of three ways. They might say, nope. Well, that's fine. You did your part. They may say yes. And that's great. They're going to say no. Well, what if they say yes? They might just say, I don't know. That's kind of interesting. I'm going to have to think about that. They might warm up to that idea. That's all right too. Right? Here's the pressure I want to take off of you. Don't you be Jesus. Don't think you're God and can save somebody. You can't save anybody. Only God can do that. But He's called us to just tell them, come and see. Come sit with me. And when the door opens of opportunity for you to be the bridge into that situation, when the door and the opportunity is right and He gives you something to move in and pray for or speak to and invest in somebody's life, then you step into that opportunity. But don't think that it's all dependent on you. Between them and God, they got to work on that, right? He just called us to be the ones that reach out. So stand with me where you're at today. I want to pray this with you. I want you to be able to tell them, on Easter Sunday, I'm going to tell them hope is rising. And there's an opportunity for you in your life today to allow hope to be renewed and to rise into your family, into your life, into your situation. And I'm going to tell them that on Easter. And not just them, I'm going to tell us. Because I know our world still needs to hear a message of hope. We need to hear that message of hope. And we need to understand not to get stuck and stagnant and stale, and understand that there still is hope for us in our situation. So I want to pray with you. Tommy, pray with me today that I'll be a come and see, sit with me representative. Tommy, I know I once was lost, but now I'm found. I was blind, but now I see. And I'm ready for somebody else to have that same experience. Because I understand that true followers are fishers. They have a heart for people, and we're called to do that. Tommy, I know that change people, they change people. I need that change in my life today. I need to have the definite change from where I'm going and change direction to where God wants me to go. Tommy, I might just need a change in the situation that I'm going through. It might just be, hey, I love the Lord, but I need to change this situation that I'm dealing with, and I want you to pray with me for that. Or maybe you're saying, Tommy, I need to make the ultimate change. I need to not live for myself. I need to live for Christ. From this day forward, I want to give my life to Christ. Any of those things that you want prayer over today, just wave at me and go, yeah, Tommy, that's me. That's me. And look, we've been giving you these prayer cards that have been inside your worship guides. We've been praying for the last several weeks. We're going to pray this week and next week over these. And maybe you're writing somebody on them. I'm going to pray over these right now today with you. And we're believing that somebody's going to come to know Christ through this time. You believe that today? Come on, let's pray together. Father, I thank you today as I lift up the names that are on these cards today, right now, God. I pray your spirit of salvation over them right where they're at, God. As they lay their head down at night, as they wake up in the morning, God, as they go throughout the day, God, as they have time to themselves, God, I pray your spirit will speak to them and that they can know you in such a real way, to have a relationship with you, that they'll come to know you as Lord and Savior. Some of us in here might need to give our life today, God, so we do that right now. We ask you to forgive us of our sin, of our past. And today, God, we're no longer living for ourselves. Today we live for you from this day forward. God, let the change be in me. Night and day difference, that I can become all that you've called me to be. Some of us, God, are praying because we believe that we need to have the change on the inside of us. God, we're going through situations and circumstances, God, health, finances, relationships, whatever is we're going through, God, that I don't know all of them, God, but you do. You've seen these hands that were raised today. God, I just pray by the power of your Spirit that you will touch and move, change and work, God, and allow them to see you for who you truly are. God, we give you praise for what you're doing already in our lives. God, we're praying that you'll go with us in divine appointments even this week, that you'll lead and guide us as we go our separate way. God, we thank you for the opportunity to represent you. God, and we give you praise for what you're doing in our lives. In Jesus' name, can you say amen today?